Hey everyone, how you doing? This is Amon Green, Green Bay Packers all-time leader in rushing, and you're watching Packers Total Access Live, your daily source for Packer content. Go Pack, go!
What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out at patreon.com/Packer Fan Total Access. Also, you can find me on Twitter at Packers_access. Wherever you get your podcast, just search Packers Total Access. Joined alongside Tim in Green Bay. It is March 6th. We are 3 days away from the legal tampering period getting cranked up here for the NFL free agency period. Really excited to dive into a bunch of that news. We've got centers we're going to break down. We're going to talk about the top free agent centers, Tim, as well as the top prospects. We're going to kind of reset the board in both free agency and the draft. We're going to talk cornerbacks in the same light. Who are the top free agents? Just a quick glance. Who are the top cornerback prospects? Linebackers, same thing. Defensive linemen, if we have time to get to it as well. We're going to dive into all of that. Obviously, we got to mention right off the bat here, Tim, before we get into everything, man, Bob Harlan, the passing of an absolute legend. Let me just kind of give a little background for me, guys. I became a Packer fan in 2003. You know, I didn't have a favorite NFL team. You guys know my story. I kind of rooted for my brother's Steelers, but I was a big college football fan, mainly a big baseball fan as well, growing up playing ball. And when I stumbled onto the Green Bay Packers, you see this refurbishing of Lambeau Field, right? And I'm like, man, I got to go up there and see this place. Everybody's always talking about the history of the Packers. So I go to Lambeau for the first time, and a part of that whole experience was learning this man behind revamping Lambeau Field and making it a year-long destination, right? Where people come from all around the world just to see this epic arena, if you will, right? That is Lambeau Field, the mecca of pro football. The only publicly owned team, all those things that we, have associated with the Green Bay Packers. And you find out real quick, not because he was going to look at what I did, but anyone who had anything to do with the Green Bay Packers and the refurbishing of Lambeau, it was this guy right here was the one who pushed for it. This is the guy who had the vision, and that was Bob Harlan, obviously passing away yesterday, getting the sad news, but in a better place. And, man, Tim, what a legacy Bob Harlan left. I love the fact that it's Bob Harlan Plaza right out there in front of Lambeau. I wish they need to do something else as well, for sure. But Bob Harlan, man, every Packer fan hearing my voice, we owe him a debt of gratitude, no doubt.
Absolutely, and hopefully a Hall of Fame induction in Canton is definitely due. It's crazy to me that he's not already there. But yeah, rest in peace to Bob Harlan, and condolences to the Harlan family. And you see the legacy and the tradition continues today. It continues to get better and bigger. We got the new scoreboards last year. I mean, Lambeau continues to get better, and it's all due to what Bob Harlan really started when he got here. And the Pack is back would not have been a thing without Bob Harlan, for sure. So he will be missed.
And it wasn't just about, hey, let's refurbish Lambeau and turn this into a business empire for, years to come. It was also having, lacking the ego, if you will, having the wherewithal to go, you know what, we need to let the football guys handle football. Yep. And he kind of, I always imagine, I see this vision this picture of Bob Harlan kind of holding the committee back a little bit, going, let Ron Wolf cook, right? And that's exactly what he did. He did the same thing with Ted Thompson. With Ted Thompson took over as general manager. Bob Harlan tells the story about how with Aaron Rodgers on the board, that Ted pulled him to the side. And, Ted being the humble man that he is, he wanted to bounce it off Bob too. Like, hey, look, we got this quarterback sitting here. He's the best on the board. If he's there when we pick, we're going to take him. And you need to know we're going to catch a lot of hell for it. And Bob Harlan said, you make the pick. You do what's best for the team. I got your back. Yep. And lo and behold, bang, you hit on another first ballot Hall of Fame quarterback, because those two men worked in unison together. And again, Harlan, just no ego and a forward vision of what the Packers should be as you step into a new decade of, NFL business, right? So, yeah, just an amazing man, amazing family man too.
Yep.
Tim, I love Mark Murphy, right? And even as much as I like Mark Murphy, he wasn't perfect. Nobody's perfect, right? We would all agree. But you find people that didn't like Mark Murphy, and that's okay. We can all, everybody's got their preferences or whatever. I have yet to meet one person or talk to one person that has anything bad to say about Bob Harlan. Not one. All I hear are fan stories that they could call his office and actually talk to him. This one guy was on Twitter the other day. He was like, I remember calling his office and asking about a move they made. He literally answered his phone and talked to him for 30 minutes, just a random fan. That's the kind of guy he was. So different area. Anyway.
It's so awesome to see those posts too. Andrew Brandt had a great post about his time here in Green Bay. And, you hear stories about people who started as interns and they're, bottom of the barrel, basically a nobody. And, there was Bob Harlan reaching out to them, making sure that they were comfortable, wanted to get to know them. You talk about a great example of excellent leadership. You talked about the way that, he put his guys together and stayed the hell out of their way and let them do what he put them in position to do. And that's good leadership right there. No one would ever accuse Bob Harlan of micromanaging anybody, right? You trust your general manager to make those picks and you stand behind him. And what a great leader, man. Just a testament to everything that we do here at 1265, right?
Yeah, for sure. We got Evil Beck in the chat says the Packers were broke for a long time until they started investing in the area and turning it into a year-round destination. So true. And it was cool because, like I said, that's the time I became a fan. And I didn't get to see what the old green monster looked like, right, in person. I came in and was like, whoa, this is not what I expected. This is absolutely awesome. Taking a tour and eating Brett Favre's jambalaya in a restaurant downstairs. He had like a little, they had a bunch of
Curly's Pub. It was Curly's Pub back in the day.
Curly's Pub had if you guys didn't get to experience it, they had an arcade off to the side there inside where you could throw footballs at targets and stuff, and it was all arcade. It was just absolutely awesome. But again, that was the vision that he had. And obviously something else that goes unmentioned a lot is I'm pretty sure it was his vision as well to get the Packer Hall of Fame inside Lambeau Field as opposed to across town, right? So another huge thing. But anyway, again, rest in peace to Bob Harlan. Thoughts and prayers out to the family, anyone he's ever impacted their life. It's we lost a great man, but heaven gained a great person. There's no doubt about it, man. I like what Mike says here in the chat. I'm up and at on this morning, hoping for a better than a B- day, man. B- ain't bad. B- won't get you in the hall, but it'll get you paid, right? Get you paid. That's all that matters, right, Mike? Pay them bills. So, all right, man. Listen.
Happy birthday to Mike, for sure.
Is Mike's birthday?
Mike's birthday. Mike Hebring's birthday, I believe. Yep.
My man, dude. Let's go. Okay. So I thought he said B- day. He said a B day. So he's talking about birthday. See, look at this.
Yeah. So it's an A+ day, not a B- day.
I'm such a moron, man.
It's Friday, and happy birthday. He's winning already. And he's on the live stream. I love it.
Yeah. Man, we got a bunch of people in here. Appreciate y'all swinging through. Let's waste no time before they drop out of here and get tired of us rambling. Top targets, center. All right. Let's just kind of what I'd like to do is like 10-minute segments, just rapid fire. Here's the breakdown on the center position. Here's the breakdown on the cornerback position. Here's the breakdown on the linebacker position, the D tackle position, and kind of give everybody an idea of what to expect as we head into free agency. Obviously, once everything gets cranked up, all bets are off. There's some players coming off the board already. There's others that are just continuing to be cut. We may make a move or two before the deadline there as well. As the new league year starts, actually, I think it's March the 11th, I believe, if I remember correctly. I've got it right here. March 11th is the actual league year beginning. However, on the 9th, which is Monday, guys, you're going to hear rumors of this team looking to sign this guy. When we signed Xavier McKinney, if you'll remember, it was like basically it's a done deal. The Packers are going after him. They got him. We just got to wait 2 days to get everything finalized. Now, you still worry that things are going to fall through, but nonetheless, it's going to get cranked up quick. So here we go, Tim. Top center free agents. This is using NFL IQ's rankings. Okay, now they use Greg Rosenthal's top 101 free agents. So that number to the left, that's what that ranking is. And then, of course, outside of that, I think they sorted it by snaps per game. So just showing like whether we think they're good or not, these are the guys that played the most snaps, which means NFL general managers thought they were the best option or else they'd have somebody else in-house, right? So Tyler Linderbaum at the top of the list at number 3 overall. Connor McGovern at number 23 overall, and then Cade Mays at number 38. So Greg Rosenthal sees it as these are the top 3 hands down best centers in free agency. Tim, the thing that sticks out to me, man, is there are not a lot of great centers out there in free agency, right? If they were great, they'd be on a football team, okay? And they already are, if that makes sense. So Tyler Linderbaum, hands down the best option here. I'm to the point now where I don't want Connor McGovern at the price that they're showing, and we'll show his market value in a second. Tyler Linderbaum, I think, is worth every dime, but I think Tyler Linderbaum's market is going to pull Connor McGovern's market up with him, if that makes sense. So when you kind of look at it from that standpoint, you're probably going to overpay for Connor McGovern, and you're overpaying for above average to good. I'd say good. I feel comfortable saying good. He's a good center. You don't want to overpay for good. You're willing to overpay for great, right? Tyler Linderbaum's great. I would be willing to overpay for him. So I don't know how you feel, but he's really the only one on this list that I go, yeah, that's the dude I want to be my starting center, and I'm willing to overpay for. How do you see that?
I agree 100%. Not to be too boring. The other thing we talk about with McGovern is, he's kind of the oldest in that crop. So you get the bonus of Tyler Linderbaum being almost, I believe, 3 years, little bit more than 3 years younger than Connor McGovern, plus a better center and a born and bred Packer fan. Let's not forget that. Get Tyler Linderbaum in the green and gold. Let's make it happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Just another reason to love him. Right now, we put the bottom of the barrel guys here in free agency as well on down the list, so you can take a look at those. Let's look at the market value, Tim. This is the most recent numbers. Tyler Linderbaum is holding steady at a $17.7 million AAV according to Spot Track. Now, again, there's some people that roll their eyes at that and they say, no, it's more like 22 million. Okay, but let's meet in the middle. Let's say 20 million. If you're willing to pay him 20 million per to be your starting center, your first year cap hit probably going to be around 15 or 16 million. Second year will blimp. You can move money around and adjust it as you go. I think it's worth every penny. Now, obviously, the guarantee is going to play a big role in that as well. Now, Connor McGovern, 16.2, Cade Mays, 12.2, Ethan Pochik at a 10.5. So again, when you kind of look at everything, you step back. Sean Ryan's showing a value of 6.5 million. I would love to have Sean Ryan back, not a 6.5 million. Give him, 3 to 4 million. Sure, bring him back. Precedent would suggest the Packers are not going to do that. We shall see. But Tyler Linderbaum here at 17.7. Tim, if you can get him at 17.7, you could probably get it closer to that AAV number of 17.7 if you guarantee a little more money. And also the byproduct of that, guys, is if you guarantee more money, there's more flexibility. When you hear us say cash over cap, what you're doing is you can blimp up the AAV, but it's going to be a higher cap hit.
Yep.
You can keep that AAV lower and go more guaranteed money, right? If you go that route, then you can maneuver that money around a lot easier. So again, you could probably get him at 17.7, but you may have to guarantee, 50 million, as opposed to if you went 22 AAV, you're only guaranteeing 40 million. So anything that's in the form of that signing bonus can be spread out over the entire duration of the contract. A little bit harder to do that, to get them agreed to salary allocation if there's less guaranteed money. So I would be all about, man, if you can get Tyler Linderbaum at 17.7, sign me the heck up, dude. So
make it happen.
Yeah, for sure, man. He's just one of those guys. It's a tier 2 position of importance. He's a great football player. It's going to be very, very rare that you get great football players at the center position that are just floating around out there in free agency. And again, Tim, maybe I was worried a little bit in the beginning, and I don't know if Goody will go after him. Goody may not even like him, guys. You guys know how this goes. We don't know what Goody's assessment of Linderbaum is. However, when you kind of look at it, you step back and look at Tyler Linderbaum and the whole situation, he most likely would want to go to the Giants with John Harbaugh, his former head coach, right? Well, the fact that he grew up a Packer fan, he played at Iowa, you would think, that kind of offsets a little bit, I would imagine. So there should be an even playing field if indeed the Packers go after him. Now, the one thing about Goody, these big name free agents like Xavier McKinney, Josh Jacobs, if he really likes them, he's going to go after them quick. He doesn't waste any time, right? Now, if you don't hear anything within the first, 2, 3, 4 hours on Monday, March the 9th, if you don't hear anything about the Packers are in the hunt there, probably not going to happen. Right. So just keep that in mind as well.
Still hasn't recovered at center from not drafting Creed Humphrey, right? Still playing this game.
and this is what sucks about it, Tim. Creed Humphrey, he was drafted, right? So you get that rookie contract, just like Tyler Linderbaum. His previous AAV was 3.3 million. Like, look at all the cap space that gives you in regards to building out the rest of your freaking roster, right? Yep. It's just like hitting on a good young quarterback. Like the Bears right now, whether you think Caleb Williams is good or not, that's still to be debated. He makes some flashy plays, no doubt. The accuracy is cheeks, like the adjusted completion percentage. If he don't straighten that out, they're going to be up and down his entire career. But they get him on that rookie deal that allows him to be a lot more aggressive with the rest of the roster. We don't have that luxury because we hit on Jordan Love, and that is the negative aspect of having a quarterback sit. Was we didn't have an opportunity to go, okay, we've got 3 years of him on a rookie deal. It was essentially he sat, bang, we got to give him a decent extension, and now the big extension, and we haven't had that luxury of it's just the price you pay for having a good quarterback, obviously. So moving on to the top center prospects here, just to take a quick glance. Then what I did was I sorted by overall grade right here, okay? So it's pretty cool to see that they have Jake Slaughter over at NFL IQ as their best center, okay? He's got an 81 grade. It's not even close. Logan Jones, Brian Parker, and Connor Lew are all three tied for second. So you get kind of a plateau there after Jake Slaughter. They've got a 75 overall grade. Sam Heck, a 74. Matt Golban, a 73. I know that's Janice's favorite, one of her favorite centers that she talks about a lot. Trey Zune, a 68. Parker Brailsford, Pat Coogan, and Jager Burton coming in there at 66, 66, and 60, respectively. So when you look at this and you look at the production is the big thing for Jake Slaughter, man, 92. And then you look at the athleticism. You see they've got the diamond on him. Now, hands down, this is the guy. This is the dude. When you look at our board, we have him as the second highest graded center, only behind Connor Lew. But Connor Lew is injured, so we kind of remove Connor Lew from the conversation. Jake Slaughter's the leader. They've got Connor Lew on their list, but I think they dropped him down because of the injury, to be honest with you. So I
wonder how far Connor Lew might fall on draft day, just because, I mean, you got to think that it's basically a redshirt year for him. You know, if you're drafting this guy, I wonder if he falls significantly.
Yeah, you've got to plan on it being a redshirt year, Tim, because anything can go crazy, right? Like, you can't just bank on he'll be back after the first month. Hopefully he is. But I'll tell you this: if he were to fall to pick 120, and we haven't taken a center yet, and you want to bring back Elton Jenkins as your center for one more year and lower the cap hit, let Connor Lew get healthy. I'm telling you right now, if Goody pulled me to the side right now and said, listen, Redneck, here's the plan. I'm going to get Connor Lew at 120. We're going to bring Elton back for 1 year, and you're going to have the best center in the draft starting next year. I'd be like, don't tell anybody. Let's do that. That sounds great, right? That's a good plan, assuming he will return from the ACL, and I think he will with today's medical, obviously.
Yeah.
So, so that's kind of how that looks in terms of NFL IQ and their top center prospects. When you look at it on our board in this order, Connor Lew, but he's hurt, right? Number one. Jake Slaughter checks all the boxes for me, man, hands down. A 63.6 grade. At pick 52, it would look like a little bit of a reach, I'm sure. But again, if you want to get the best at that position, sometimes you got to reach a little bit to do that. You got to make a decision. Do you want to do that, or do you want to wait till you get a chance at Brian Parker, Pat Coogan, or Logan Jones? And if you wait to that point, to me, it's the equivalent, Tim, to maybe in free agency saying, we don't need Tyler Linderbaum, let's go get Cade Mays. You're settling for a lesser player, right? And sometimes you got to gamble a little bit, man.
Yeah. So. Well, and like you said, the free agent market at center is not super promising, right? I would argue that the draft class here of centers looks a little bit better than the free agent market does. Even grabbing some of those, kind of middle of the value or could be high value guys like a Matt Goldman or like a Sam Hecht. I can see those guys, getting drafted as well. But it all depends on what the Packers are going to do. You're right. We're going to get a real good barometer once free agency really gets, ratcheted up. Are we going to aggressively go after Tyler Linderbaum? That'll give us a little bit of an idea of what we might do in the draft as far as center is concerned.
Yeah, I completely agree, man. So if you guys are watching this video back later, let us know in the comments, how do you feel about the center position? Which route would you go? Would you focus on free agency? Would you overpay Tyler Linderbaum? Maybe you like Connor McGovern a little bit better, or would you rather dip your toe into the draft and take a gamble on one or two centers in the draft and try to find that next gem, that next Tyler Linderbaum in the draft, right? Let us know in the comments how you feel about that. Hit that like button for us. Hit subscribe as well. All right, let's move on to cornerback, Tim. I feel like this is the second biggest need on the team. I feel like it's center, and then it's cornerback. It's center/interior offensive line because you could go a multitude of directions there. But cornerback is one of those positions that I do feel like we could do a lot better than what we've got on the roster right now. I'm not saying you should cut any of the guys because they are on reasonable deals. Like, I feel like none of our cornerbacks are being overpaid right now. It's just the question is, are they worthy of being the number 1 and the number 2 corner on the team? That's the big question for me. So you've got to create competition, and you've got to improve that room every way you possibly can. So let's talk about the top cornerback fixes for the Packers here. The top free agents according to NFL IQ. And again, these are ranked by Greg Rosenthal's top 101 free agents. In the number 15 spot, you got Jamil Dean. He's your top rated cornerback. Number 28, you got Jalen Watson. Number 30, you got Alontae Taylor. 36, Reek Woolen. 52, Nashawn Wright. 54, Cordell Flott. 62, Josh Joby. 65, Monteric Brown. 72, Greg Newsome. 76, Cater Cahoe, I think I'm saying, or Cahoe, maybe. 91, Trayvon Diggs. And 100, Kobe Bryant. If you go on down the list here, you see Eric Stokes on that list on down there. You see a Marshawn Lattimore, Rasul Douglas, some of these other guys that they've got rated a little bit lower. The Packers have been tied to Cam Taylor-Britt a little bit. They seem to be interested in him. He's lower on the list as well. Now, one thing I want you to key in on, since we've got this pulled up right now, let's notice the top speed. All right, this is next-gen stats, GPS tracking. Who was clocked the fastest? All right. So Jamil Dean, 20.5 miles per hour. Jalen Watson, 20.9. Alontae Taylor, 22.2 miles per hour. So physical freak there. Reek Woolen, 22.4. Right off the bat, the thing that sticks out to me, Tim, the 2 fastest cornerbacks in terms of miles per hour are 2 I like the least. So it's like, if I watch the tape and I look at the PFF grades, and I break everything down that's important to me, passer rating when targeted, stuff like that, right? Penalties, all that stuff. When I break it down and I get my list together and I look on here and go, why are they so high? And then you fall to the far right color. Oh, because they're fast. Got it. I'm telling you guys, I'm sick of it. I'm tired of focusing on speed and perfect size. And those things matter, don't get me wrong. But at some point, we've got to acknowledge that when you're losing these close games, it doesn't have as much to do with my guy's not fast enough, my guy's not tall enough, his arms need to be an inch longer. It's, boy, he broke late on that ball. Boy, he didn't put forth the amount of effort you'd like to see him in a goal line situation to try to make a tackle and prevent a touchdown. Boy, he was late getting to his spot across all these things, right? Yep. To me, it's more about football IQ and what the tape shows. And then when you get those clusters of, well, these guys look the same, now use those miles per hour. Now use those agility measurements, those height, those weight, all that stuff, right? Because like D'Angelo Ponce, we're going to talk about him in a second.
Yeah, we are.
The big knock on him is he's too damn short. But
you ever watch him play corner?
Yeah, and he jumped out of the gym, right? He showed you, okay, if you're worried about me being short, I got higher than everybody else in the vertical. What else you need to know? Right. So again, we can continue to just do the same thing over and over and over, and then act surprised in January when we got the youngest roster in the league and we're making the most mistakes, or we've got athletic freaks on the field, but they can't make a play. Right. For me, at the end of the day,
conversation about D line. We were talking about D tackles, and we said you got to be more than big. You can't just be a big dude. You gotta be able to be a football player and play that position with proper technique. And like you said, FBI is something that you can learn, right? You can't necessarily teach speed and these other things, but you can learn FBI and be a better football player. And especially at the corner position, I'll take a guy that's a shade slower, and a better football player than the speed demon out there who is in the wrong place or doesn't know his assignment.
Yeah, it's like Keyshawn Nixon is sneaky fast. When you've seen him on kick returns, you've seen it. Like he is, I mean, he is very, very quick, very, very athletic in that regard. Well, what's the big knock on him? He gave up a ton of touchdowns. His passer rating when targeted was through the roof. Okay. Why? Because he's biting on double moves and not playing his assignment. Right. Okay. So I would rather have a player that if I need you in a deep third, I know hell or high water, you're going to be in a deep third. You're not going to get beat over the top. Okay. I can get beat underneath. That's fine. Now, if you're playing a curl flat responsibility, that's different. I want you to be aggressive. And if they beat you 2.5 yards over your outside shoulder on a perfectly thrown ball and an out route, not many quarterbacks can make that throw perfectly, consistently in the National Football League, college football, anywhere, right? So, like, you're trying to minimize the offense's opportunity to be successful. Well, what you're doing is you're maximizing their opportunity to be successful when you're just constantly biting on stuff underneath, right? So you need somebody to play technically sound first and foremost. Guys, the scheme is designed to stop everything the offense is throwing at you. The offensive scheme is designed to trick you into seeing stuff that you don't see, i.e. a double move. And if you stay scheme responsible and cover your over-the-top technique, it doesn't matter they hit you with a double move. Now, does that mean they're going to hit you underneath occasionally? Absolutely. I'd rather give up an 8-yard first down than a 60-yard touchdown because you got aggressive and bid on everything underneath. I'm telling you, man, it was all over the tape with these cornerbacks. They are going to bite on the double move. Jair did it as well. Guess where Key learned it from? It was Jair. Now, when he picks a pass off, we love it. But again, I would rather us have given up 3 less long touchdowns and have one fewer interception than the opposite. If that makes sense. So that when you look at some of this stuff, that's the things that come into play for me. Andres in the chat says, I want Trayvon Diggs on a cheap deal. I completely agree. His market value, Tim, is showing like $2 million right now. If you can get him for $4 million, take a swing on some of these guys who have played at an elite level earlier in their career that maybe don't look as good right now, as opposed to just going out and going, okay, Reek Woolen ran 22 and a half miles per hour. Let's go sign him. So Jamil Dean's at the top of the list for me right now, if you can afford it. But again, Trayvon Diggs is one of those guys. Andres, what I'd like to see is them spend about $8 to $10 million on one of these upper echelon guys that you can get a decent deal on and still bring back Trayvon Diggs. I guarantee you, those 2 corners you add, Tim, probably going to go to number 1 and number 2 on the depth chart at the cornerback room. Yeah,
definitely. And I think that was the experiment last year, right? I don't think that it's ridiculous to assume that we're gonna get Trayvon Diggs back in Green Bay on a cheaper deal for sure. And then, like you said, is who are you going to pair him with, and who's ultimately going to stay in that room and who's not going to be here in 2026. That's the other thing. We can talk about Nate Hobbs. There's a few other names back there. Who knows where they'll end up, whether they're Packers or if they are, where they're going to be on the depth chart. But I'm with you, man. I just feel like the interest in Cam Taylor-Britt, goes back to last season with the Packers. He was on the radar before the trade deadline. And I wonder how aggressive they're going to actually pursue him. And could he be that other corner in addition to Trayvon Diggs? There's some other names up here that I'm with you. I think I'd rather have a Jamil Dean or somebody like that. But my gut's telling me Cam Taylor-Britt might be a Packer at some point.
And Greg Newsome worries me too. I'm not a big Greg Newsome guy, and it's kind of the same thing. If Goody probably had high second-round grades on both Greg Newsome and Taylor-Britt, and I could see him going, "Hey, we can change him, we can fix him." And to me, it just hasn't worked out much in the past. Jason in the chat says Diggs and Brown. I would love that combination. Those are 2 guys on my cheat sheet, Jason. Yeah. Obviously, Trayvon Diggs you can get on a decent deal. Let's look down here at both of those guys. Let's see what their projected market value is. So Trayvon Diggs is he even on the list? There he is. So they got him at 7.5 market value right now is what they're showing. So it has jumped back up. That's probably more realistic. That's why I was saying if you can get him back at like $5 million, I'd be all about that, right? They were showing $2 million a couple of days ago. It's hard to believe he was just going to go for 2, but typically it's somewhere in the middle. He thinks he's worth 10. Some of the comps are showing 2, probably going to fall 5 to 7. I could see that. So that's where he falls in. And then, of course, Monteric Brown is showing 9.2. Now, keep in mind, guys, if you go a 9.2 AAV for somebody like Monteric Brown and you give a 3-year deal, that first year, the cap hit's probably going to be about $6 million. So guess what Keyshawn Nixon's cap hit was last year? $6 million. It was like $6 to $7 million. So it's not going to break the bank by no stretch of the imagination. If you go get a Monteric Brown, like Jason's saying, as well as a Trayvon Diggs, then total what you've spent is roughly $16 million in AAV, shave about $4 million off that, probably going to be $12 million against the cap in the first year. And you just added 2 starting cornerbacks, most likely, compared to, who you've got in-house. You feel a lot better about the cornerback position. Now, if you go a different route, Tim, and you go like Jalen Watson, 12.4, I'd be okay with that. Jamil Dean at 12.4 that to me would be awesome. Get him for 12.4, first year cap hit 10 million. Okay, somewhere around there, 9 to 10 million, depending on how you structure the contract. Guaranteed money will fluctuate the AAV and how the cap is actually allocated. But if you go Jamil Dean here at 12.4, and let's say you do a little bargain shopping down toward the bottom, I'm just trying to take a look at some of these guys that grab my attention. Like Rasul Douglas, they're showing him at 4 million. He played great last year, and in 2023, 2024 was a bad year, right? So it's like you get some veteran presence. Maybe he won't beat out Keyshawn as the opposite corner. But for $4 million per, you get a veteran that if somebody has an injury, he could step right in and play good football. Maybe that's a good combination to go with a couple different corners in that direction.
I would agree. I mean, especially when you look at some of the values. Like I keep fixating on Cam Taylor-Britt, at 9 million. I think there's a few more creative ways we could round out that cornerback room as opposed to, coming even close to that for him. And that's not a knock on Cam Taylor-Britt. He's a really good corner, but like you said, you overpay for great, not for really good, right?
Absolutely. Completely agree. And on down the list here, I was looking at a couple of, like, Eric Stokes is interesting. They're showing him at 7.3, man. He played great last year, but we've seen the downside to that, right? Maybe that's the new Eric Stokes. I hope it is for his sake, right? Seems like a great guy. Any interactions fans had with him in Green Bay, they absolutely love the dude, right? So I'm rooting for him. I just don't know if I'd be willing to pay him 7.3 million, right? And essentially, this is going to be a deal very similar to Nate Hobbs' deal too. It's going to be a 3-year deal that's really a 2, right? Or a 3 that's really a 1, if that makes sense. So, just going at it. Roger McCreary is another one we liked a little bit as well. Let's look at the top prospects. However, if you want to go in the draft here, maybe you do a combination, man. Maybe you go and get Monteric Brown, or you get Trayvon Diggs, and then you still draft somebody at 52. According to NFL IQ, the top prospects here in terms of cornerbacks, Colton Hood with an 82 overall grade. DJ had him at 26. And I love this, Tim. NFL.com, NFL IQ's overall grades do not match up in any way, shape, or form with Daniel Jeremiah's top 50. And I love that because more information, the better, right? So 82 overall for Colton Hood. Charles Demings, actually, I'm missing one there because I know, is Delane? Really? They've got Delane significantly lower. Tim, look at this. They've got him with a 70. Let me just go down the list here. Colton Hood, 82, but he's 26 on DJ's big board. Charles Demings, 79. Chris Johnson, 79. Chris Johnson is my guy. I'm just telling you. That's the corner I want. D'Angelo Pons, close second for me, picking it at 52, right? He's got a 78. Mansour Delane is a 77 with Devin Moore there. That's really interesting because we've got Mansour Delane as the top corner with a 9 grade. We're saying he's worthy of a top 10 pick. Now, DJ agrees. He says he's the 8th best prospect. So that overall grade is very, very interesting. And it looks like what's bringing Mansour down is probably they've only got a 65 at athleticism. So it's probably an incomplete athleticism grade is what's bringing him down at the moment. That would be my guess. So that's probably explains why he is where he is. Now, Devin Moore, you got Chandler Rivers, 76, along with Andre Fuller, Brandon Cease, who the Packers met with, along with Jermod McCoy and Avian Terrell, and Dalen Everett all have 75s. Julian Neal has a 75 as well in terms of grades. Then Davison Igbinosun with a 74. Malik Muhammad, who the Packers met with out of Texas, at a 73. Takario Davis, 73. Ephesians Prysock, 73. When you compare these guys, Tim, to our PTA big board, the big thing that sticks out to me is we've got Chris Johnson as kind of the first mock fall in our range. We'll see. Recently, Daniel Jeremiah, he finally made Daniel Jeremiah's top 50 list. He's now 42nd, last I checked. Okay, so DJ thinks he's probably going to be gone when we pick at 52 unless we're willing to trade up. D'Angelo Pons is right behind him at a 40.4. Those are the two. If you're going to go corner, those are the two I would like, Chris Johnson or D'Angelo Pons. This is where people enter the chat and say, no way would Goody draft Pons. I understand. I get it. It pisses me off, but I'm still going to voice my opinion just like I did with Brian Branch and say, that's my guy right there. So what do you think about corner, man, in terms of the draft, Tim? How does it stick out to you? Any thoughts on that, man?
I agree at 52. I mean, Johnson and Pons would be my picks, right? And there's a chance that one of them's available. And I don't know how aggressive, again, free agency will probably give us some insight, but how aggressive are we going to be, at 52? Do we want to go after somebody at the cornerback position early and trade up to get him if, in fact, Johnson's our guy or Pons is our guy? We don't know what's going on in that war room there with Goody. So, but I mean, I'm with you. I think I would lean Chris Johnson just slightly over D'Angelo Ponds as far as who my favorite would be out of that crop. But there's a couple other sneaky good corners, even if we can't grab someone at 52, there might be someone at 84 or 120 even that we could grab. But I think it does thin out as you get a little later in the draft.
Yeah. And when you look at the production grade in college, just strictly production grade, hands down, D'Angelo Ponds is the leader at 82, right? Now, Chris Johnson, not so much. His production was 70. All right. So that's the difference between those two. Again, Ponds is just one of those guys that we don't have a 40 time and all that yet. He did have a 43.5-inch vertical, which is insane to me. But again, it's his height and size that's going to hurt him in this draft. If he's there at 52, man, the production is just through the freaking roof, man. You've seen it all over the time. I mean, he literally, Mansour Delane is probably going to go top 10 in this draft, right? And D'Angelo Ponds had a better college football career than Mansour Delane, if that tells you anything. Well, what school did he play at? He played at Indiana, the national champions. Like, this dude went through the gauntlet of the college football playoff and played great football as well. Think about this, and this is going to upset some people, and we'll move on. Put yourself back on your couch, drinking that daddy soda, watching the fourth quarter, us give up 25 points to the Bears, okay? And as soon as the game's over, what's everybody saying on Twitter? We just can't close out game. We just can't win. We can't win the big one. You can't ever, they play their worst in the biggest moments, blah, blah, blah. Here you've got a guy that played his best football in the biggest moments, and we're going to pass up on him because he's short.
Yeah. That's the only knock anyone can seem to come up with on D'Angelo Ponds is he's short.
Right.
You guys watch the combine? I mean, everything else is good as far as the measurables. I mean, that dude is, ripped and in the best shape of his life. And like we just talked about, he's a damn good corner. And that's what you're trying to draft. You're not drafting height. If D'Angelo Ponds was 6'1", we wouldn't even be having this conversation right now.
Exactly. If D'Angelo Ponds was 6'1", he's probably a top 3 pick. That's what's hilarious about the whole situation. So, All right. So there you go, guys. That's a quick look at the cornerback situation and kind of where we got guys ranked. We got our favorites. I want to know, who are your favorites? What direction would you like to see the Packers go in when it comes to fixing the cornerback room here in Green Bay? Let us know in the comments. Hit that like button for us. Hit subscribe. Click the bell icon so you catch all the future live streams with breaking news as we get deeper into free agents. All right, man. That's pretty much what we needed to hit off the bat. We'll probably go live again later today. I just wanted to kind of touch on center and cornerback. We'll come back and hit linebacker and D-line later. I think will be fun. I'm excited to talk about Leo Chenal and some of these guys that might potentially replace Quay Walker, as it looks like he's on his way out, unfortunately, Tim. I think we would all agree. All signs are pointing to Quay probably going to be playing somewhere else. Me and Tim were talking about it offline just a second ago. The thing that sticks out to me is, imagine him going to Miami. Quay's a big fisher, right? He loves fishing. Imagine him going to South Beach with Jeff Hafley. Doesn't have to learn a new scheme. Fits right in. Green dot mic for Jeff Hafley. And out there in South Beach, man, deep sea fishing and all that good stuff. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, there's multiple reasons why that would probably make sense, right? Especially just considering, the on the field and the off the field aspect. I say Miami or maybe Atlanta or something like that. You never know. But hey, that's my dude. I'm going to wish him the best either way. And I can't wait till we break down this linebacker position because, between free agency and the draft, we're going to have to do something, right? We can't, it can't just be Edrin Cooper out there and, Zay McDuffie. We got to figure it out.
Yeah. Holmes in the chat says Woolen is like 6'4", talking about Woolen's height. Again, this is where I differ from a lot of fans, I think, Tim. I could give a rat's ass how tall somebody is if their grades don't match up to other people's grades. If their tape, if I watch somebody like D'Angelo Ponds and then I watch somebody like Reek Woolen and I come away going, man, Ponds is the better corner, but Woolen's 6'4", I just can't get there. I can't, man. I mean, it's just, maybe it's a flaw in how I fan. And again, I'm not saying I'm right and Holmes or anyone else is wrong, but when you kind of break everything down, I don't get the hype. I don't get the hype around Tariq Woolen. Like, if I were to go to player grades here on PFF, and let's just see, because I might be overlooking something here. Let me just take a quick glance here. Where does Rick Woolen land in terms of PFF grades? Because I haven't spent a whole lot of time digging into this. So if you remove the height, the weight, everything, you just said, okay, how did they play? How did PFF grade them? And again, PFF isn't everything. Tariq Woolen graded out a 59.8. 59.8 is where he graded out. That was 65th best amongst all corners.
But he's tall.
You know what I'm saying? And again, we're not making fun of who is it, Holmes? We're not making fun of Holmes. Like, there's a lot of fans that view it this way. I'm just giving my perspective. Like, I don't care that he's tall. You know, Quay, let me give you an example. Quay was an athletic freak. When we drafted Quay, it's like, man, he jumped up boards quick. Why did he all of a sudden, the rumors started like 48 hours before the draft, this guy's skyrocketing up draft boards and blah, blah, blah. And I'm going, what is it about Quay Walker? Because when you turn on the tape in college, you don't see a dominant player. You see a good football player, but you don't see dominant. Oh, he's tall. He's long.
Fast,
he's
athletic.
quick.
Yeah.
Right. How did that work out? You know, Kevin King. Kevin King's another one. That's a tall corner. Oh, boy, Kevin King going to be a dog. He's tall. He's long. He's this and that. Didn't work out.
Yeah.
Why? Because the tape, you could watch the tape in college. If I remember correctly, him and a teammate of his, they were two of the top corners in the draft. Kevin King, just like Quay Walker, got projected up a little bit on the draft boards because of his athleticism, because of his height, his weight, his arm length, all those things, right? Yep. So again, I'm not saying PFF's everything, guys, but this is the reality of Tariq Woolen's PFF grades. He came in the league in 2022, okay? 69, 67, 67, 59. He has declined in terms of PFF grades not every single year. He went from 67.1 in 23 to 67.9 in 24. And then he dropped off to 59.8. And you've seen him running his mouth in the Super Bowl and then getting his ass cooked. It's like,
sound familiar?
Yeah. It's all I could think about, man, was just like, and again, I hope Rick Woolen gets his money, man. I hope he breaks the bank. I don't root against any player getting their money. I'm just simply telling you, from my standpoint as a Packer fan, I don't understand the buzz around Rick Woolen. And he started off low, and now he's starting to jump up, rankings and things like that as we get closer to free agency actually kicking off and all that good stuff. So I was going to try to pull up his passer rating when targeted real quick too as well, Tim. Anything else you want to add in terms of Rick Woolen here?
No, just the hope that Goody doesn't lean on that tendency that he's always seemed to have, which is favoring the RAS, favoring the height, the weight, the build. We all know, we talk about Goody has a type, especially when we're talking about corners. But if past experiences dictated anything to us, it's usually the best football players tend to be the best draft picks, not the tallest, fastest guys, right?
Yeah. And you can fall into that trap, man. And I think every team does to a certain extent, right? And again, I'm not saying it's not important, man. If you've got a cluster of 3 prospects or 3 free agents, and you go, man, these guys, we grade them out all the same. Their tape looks similar. Like, you can't say this guy's better than that guy. They're all 3 the same. Okay, cool. Give me the 6'4" guy. Absolutely. That's stupid to think you wouldn't. You would never go shorter over taller if the tape matches, right? Passer rating when targeted on NFL Pro. I'm trying to run down where he's at, but evidently he's pretty low on the board here. So there's Josh Joby, one of his teammates, 70.1. There's Rick Woolen. So he was 49th in the league with a 75.1. So keep that in mind, 75.1 for Rick Woolen. And now if we hop over to the Packers, let's just kind of compare apples to apples here, okay? In terms of passer rating when targeted, he was a 75.1. The Packers, Javon Bullard is probably the top corner. Actually, Trayvon Diggs, the one game he played for the Packers was a 39.6, but he was cheeks for the Cowboys, don't get me wrong, okay? It looks like Javon Bullard, a 97.1, Keyshawn Nixon, 106.5. So Rick Woolen, hands down, would be the best corner on the team if you signed him, right? There's no doubt about that. The question is, how much money would you be willing to pay for him? And is there somebody else that you would like more at that 75.1? I think we did this the other day, Tim. There's a lot of other DBs that had a better passer rating when targeted.
Even guys that'll be available on day 2.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Like if we go Tampa, let's go Tampa real quick. Just take a quick glance. Jamil Dean, here's a perfect example. Remove the height, the weight, the names, everybody. Remove everything, okay? If we were to just go strictly off of PFF grades, okay, just PFF grades, and I think I've still got it pulled up here. Let me see if I can find Tampa real quick. If you just go strictly PFF grades, and we're looking at DBs with cornerbacks, let me go on down the list here. Where are you at, sir? Should have just done it by team. I apologize. I love having these conversations on the fly, though, man. These are fun. I always learn something. More times than not, I find myself, Tim, going, crap, yeah, they're right, man. I missed that. That's a good call, and that's what it's all about. Jamil Dean, 80.6. Okay. So remove height, weight, names, all that good stuff, right? Which would you rather have? Somebody who graded out in the 50s or an 80.6? You'd say the 80.6. You just picked Jamil Dean. Okay, let's cross-check that. Forget PFF. Passer rating when targeted, right? You got one that graded or that had a 75 that they gave up. The other was a 41.3. Which one are you taking? The 41.3. Congratulations. You just picked Jamil Dean over Rick Rowland.
Yep.
But again, if you didn't include any of that and you just said, all right, here's the build of these guys. This guy ran 22 miles an hour. This guy ran 21 and a half. You take the 22. You just took Rick Rowland. This guy's 6'4". This guy is however tall Jamil is, if it's 6 foot or whatever, right? You're going with the 6'4" guy. That's why the tape matters. That's why the play matters. That's why the grades matter, man. So this is a great one right here. I think this is a very, very valid question, Tim. Jacob in the chat said, are you really not worried at all about injury risk with Pons? I feel like that's half the conversation about being undersized in the NFL. Think about it. They said the same thing about Brian Branch. Now, I don't know if he stayed healthy last year or not, but overall, Brian Branch was considered one of the toughest players in the league, right? I don't think
Pons is only undersized because he's of his height. I mean, I feel like everything else is there. I mean,
186. Yeah. I mean, I got to pull this up. Let me find a picture. Go ahead, Tim. Keep talking.
Yeah, I'm just saying, and it is, like Jacob's saying here, this is a valid question. I mean, so to say you're not worried at all about injury risk with a smaller stature player is absolutely crazy. Yeah, I would not go that far to say I'm not worried at all. I'm just saying I'm not worried enough, not enough that I don't want to draft this guy and see how his game translates to the NFL level. Bringing up the Brian Branch comparison is valid too, because that was another guy who's a little bit shorter than you'd like, but a hell of a football player and physical freak out there. So I'm not worried at all, but not worried enough to not want to draft him, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah. Just trying to take a look at some of these shots here. I want to get a picture of him just to kind of see, because you hear that he's small, but he's like 186 pounds or something like that, right? Yep. So he's got a lot more meat on the muscle, especially for 5'8", man. That's thick. That's thicker than a bowl of oatmeal right there.
Exactly.
It kind of reminds you like how Jair came out and he was looking a little thick, because Jair was a little undersized, nowhere near 5'9" or 5'8", wherever D'Angelo Pons is. But I don't know, man. Pons to me just looks like a guy that's going to be physical. He plays the game physical. I can't really find a great shot. This might be the best we can do here. But I just want to kind of take a look, because you don't look at him and go, boy, he's tiny, right? I mean, he's thick. It's a thick dude right there. Yep. I think he's going to have a great career. I really do. I think he's going to be one of those players we're going to look back and go, damn, boy, how did so many teams pass up on him because of his height? It's because of his height. So again, Jacob, to Tim's point, I don't think you're more likely to get hurt because you're shorter. I think it's the opposite, to be honest with you. Like, how did Barry Sanders stay so healthy? That dude was – anytime you ask anybody about Barry Sanders, if you guys didn't get a chance to watch him play, what made him so good? Low center of gravity, right? Yep. Low center of gravity. And one thing that I think that I've learned over the last few years of just studying the draft and studying player evaluation and talking to coaches in my area and attending coaching seminars and things like that, people are going, Clay, you don't even coach. Why do you waste your time doing that? Because I want to learn how coaches think. I want to learn how general managers think. Like, I want to look at it through that lens. I don't want to look at it through the overly emotional fans' eyes, which I've done way too often, right? So when you look at these type of things and you understand what they're actually looking for, one thing that never gets talked about in the mainstream media is what we call contact balance, or body control, right? Like, it's so important. How many times have we seen a player fall down? How many times have we seen a player leave yak on the ground on the field because they slip, because they don't have great body control? How many times have we gotten upset with Luke Musgrave, who looks like a physical freak, catches the ball, goes straight to the ground, right? It's literally body control, right? And then when you make contact on defense as well, that's the other thing. D'Angelo Pons tackles like a freaking Tasmanian devil.
Yep.
Right. Well, you got Carrington Valentine, who's got a good physical profile. He's a taller corner, right? He's lean, he's long, all those things, right? You would think, okay, yeah, he could tackle good. He don't tackle good. Tackling is it's more of a form thing. It's more of a mechanics thing. It's more of a want to thing. D'Angelo Pons wants to smack you in the mouth, So
it's one of the things we love about Javon Bullard. Bull's one of those guys too, right? Tackling machine.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So again, man, I'm not saying that Reek Woolen wouldn't be a good signing. Maybe he would. PFF says he wouldn't. The passer rating when targeted says he's good. He's not great, right? But I just can't fall in love with the whole 6'4" and the 40-yard dash and all that stuff. Again, to me it's great. It's great. It's just a great cross check. When you watch the tape and you go, okay, here's my top 5 players. All right. These 3 are graded out above these 2. Well, when it comes time to draft and you got those 3 are all on the table. All right. Now look at the physical measurements, right? So Holmes in the chat says contact balance is more important than anything on both sides of the ball. Pons reminds me of Bull. Bull has great contact. Oh my God. That's a perfect pull there, Holmes. His body control is phenomenal, Tim. And I'm telling you, I won't say the name of the podcaster, but they were raking Bull over the coals coming into the year, right? And then all of a sudden, by the end of the year, now they're retweeting stuff out and posting things at Bull. Look at what he did, and this and that. It's like, yeah, we were talking about that all year, going, this dude's gotten a lot better. Like,
that's what we talked about at the end of last year. We, going into that season, that one of the things we talked about with Bullard, it wasn't tackling, it was the coverage grade. We wanted to see the coverage grade come up, and it did significantly in the 2025 season for sure.
Yeah, definitely. This is a great question here. Read this question for me on the screen, Tim. I'm going to try to pull up our draft board. I love this question.
Oh man, he's going to make my brain hurt. Lil Mick Crocodile Dundee. I like that. If Pons or Johnson is there at 52, who do you go with? My goodness.
Pons or Johnson. What would you do, Tim? What would you just before I pull the board up?
We just spent all this time talking about how much we love D'Angelo Pons, despite him, being a little bit shorter. But I think I'd go with Johnson. He'd be my first pick probably. Let's see if he's there. I just don't think he's going to be there at 52.
I'm going to remove my personal opinion, and let's see here. All right. So let's say we're picking a cornerback, and those 2 guys are available. All right. So Colton Hood at 27, we're assuming he's gone. Right. He's 27 on our board. Chris Johnson is now in the 33 spot on our board. Daniel Jeremiah says he's at 42. We have him significantly higher at 33. So as much as we love D'Angelo Pons, we've got D'Angelo Pons in the 40 spot. So his grade, Chris Johnson's grade, is a 32.6. D'Angelo Pons is a 40.4. Hands down, Chris Johnson will be the pick. Let's say that D'Angelo Pons graded out exactly the same as Chris Johnson. Okay, let's assume that. And again, I want to be clear here, Crocodile Dundee. My pick here, hands down, is Chris Johnson. That's the route I'm going, okay? Because he's significantly higher on our board. However, if they were graded out the same, who would we go with here? Let's do it. Let's look at it from that perspective, okay? First of all, what did they do at the Senior Bowl, okay, and at the All-Star games or whatever? Both of them were at the Senior Bowl. Chris Johnson rose to the occasion, got a 5-point bonus. He was one of the players that Daniel Jeremiah said dominated all week long. D'Angelo Pons, I didn't hear anybody say anything bad, and we don't deem guys for All-Star Week. We just give bonuses. People weren't saying D'Angelo Pons is dominating, right? So Chris Johnson would check the box there. I would go with him. Let's say neither of them performed in the Senior Bowl, okay? What does Greg Cosell have to say about him? It's too early. We don't have the Greg Cosell bonus for either of those guys yet. We'll find out in due time. We would say, hey, here's what our lead scout says. What does Daniel Jeremiah say? Daniel Jeremiah says Chris Johnson's the 42nd best prospect in the draft on his top 53.0. He does not have D'Angelo Pons in the top 50. Chris Johnson checks the box, right? If we go to RAS, Chris Johnson went to the combine. He competed. His RAS is sitting at A5. D'Angelo Pons didn't do all the drills, although his vertical jump, it looks like his athleticism is going to be through the roof. So we can't go off of athleticism there. If we fall back to the tiebreaker of, like we said with size, Chris Johnson, 6 foot, 193 with 30 and 5/8 inch arms. All right. D'Angelo Pons, 5'9", 182 with 29 and 3/8 inch arms. So there's not a single tiebreaker here that says D'Angelo Pons is a better player than Chris Johnson. So my pick, hands down, will be Chris Johnson. That's even if they had the same grade. Now, when you go to the grade, hands down, Chris Johnson's the better prospect. Now, let's say, forget everything else, Clayton. What did PFF say? PFF loved them both. D'Angelo Pons was the 6th highest graded corner, right?
Yep.
Chris Johnson,
number 2.
Number 2. So everything across the board says that Chris Johnson's a better corner. Now, if you were to try to hold my feet to the fire and say, Clayton, I need you to force yourself to like D'Angelo Pons more than Chris Johnson, how do you sell me? My selling point would be he played tougher talent, D'Angelo Pons did, and he played his best football at the highest level throughout the college football playoff and into the national championship, obviously winning the national championship. That would be the only thing I could hang my hat on with D'Angelo Pons being better than Chris Johnson. With all that being said, if Chris Johnson was not available, I'm taking D'Angelo Pons next in terms of cornerback. He's next on our board at a 40.4. The next one is Keith Abney at a 45.9. And Brandon Cease out of South Carolina, 46.3. Tim, we know Goody. Well, if they're sitting there and they're forced to go cornerback at pick 52, and it's D'Angelo Pons, Keith Abney, or Brandon Cease, no doubt in my mind we would go Brandon Cease over D'Angelo Pons. And I will throw something through my damn computer on our live stream when it happens. Still. So anything else you want to add there? Sorry, Stephen A. Didn't mean to get upset.
No, it's so true. It's like, you hate to say it, right? You hate to, you're not being sarcastic. You almost wish you were being sarcastic, but it's true. I think you're going to have Goody looking at those measurables and go with the taller guy, right?
Right. Absolutely, man. All right. Let's see here. Mr. Harrington in the chat. Good to see you, buddy. Says, I think Jalen Watson would be a good pickup for us. He's only 27, has great size, length, and good speed, multiple Super Bowl rings, and playoff experience, would instantly be cornerback 1 and an upgrade. I have no problem with Jalen Watson. He was my leading candidate most of this offseason. It's just the market value now, Mr. Harrington, has allowed Jamil Dean to slightly jump above Jalen Watson for me on my cheat sheet. So I would love to see Jalen Watson in green and gold. That would be awesome. Jalen Watson, and then let's say you get one of these other guys a little later in the draft, one of these other corners that we might like. Like if I were to sort by corner real quick, and we just jump to the top of the list here for cornerback, let's say you did go Jalen Watson in free agency, all right, and you bolstered up your cornerback room. And let's say that
you grabbed Trayvon Diggs in free agency as well.
Right. Let's say you go Emmanuel Prignon at guard at 52, or you go Jake Slaughter, reach a little bit and get your center of the future, right? Let's say you go that route. So now you come back at 84. Who would you like to pair up potentially with Jalen Watson at 84? Maybe somebody like a Davison Igbinosun, right? 6'2", 189. We got a 74.9 grade on him, 8+ RAS. That checks the box. Dane Brugler has him as the 50th best prospect. That would be great value at 84 if he's there, right? Julian Neal, I'd be okay with 6'2", 32 and 3/4 inch arms. I had a RAS of a 5-point bonus of a 9+ RAS. Tankathon had him at 79. Chandler Rivers actually came in a little bit undersized at 5'9". I don't think Goody would ever draft him. However, I think he was clocked at over 22 miles per hour at the combine. He got a 8-point bonus there. Dane Brugler says he's the 88th best prospect. That would be in that range. So if you were to get Jalen Watson, like Mr. Harrington's saying here in the chat, Tim, and then you go Jake Slaughter with your 52nd pick, or Emmanuel Prignon if he falls in your lap, or say a Blake Miller drops in your lap and you kick him to guard, whatever. You bolster your offensive line. You already got a cornerback in free agency. Wrap back around with pick 84 or pick 120 and get one of these guys a little later. Malik Muhammad, the Packers seem to like. They met with him at the Senior Bowl. 6 foot, 182, 32 and 3/8 inch arms, 4'4", 240. That checks the boxes, right?
Yeah, he's right there. He made it. He made Goody's threshold.
Right, 9+ RAS. Dane Brugler has him as the 90th best prospect. That's one that Malik Muhammad, maybe a little later in the draft, if he lasts to 120, you could pull the trigger there. So maybe
bigger school guy too, right? Like you said, who are you playing, right?
And in that scenario, at pick 84, maybe Malik Muhammad could somehow, some way fall to pick 120, right? and pick 84, you go with a defensive tackle. You go with one of the guys on our cheat sheet, like say a Darrell Jackson or a Big Citrus, somebody like that. Lee Hunter's going to start dropping on boards because of that combine, right? What if Lee Hunter's sitting there at 84? Well, Clayton, it's a 3 RAS. Goody would never do it. I agree. I will throw something through the screen because his tape looks great. You know what I mean? So that's just kind of how I see it. But thank you for that question. Listen, I didn't plan on talking about that at the end, but that's nice to kind of look at, Pons versus Johnson, right? And then also kind of talking a little extra free agency with the cornerback room. It's going to be fascinating, Tim, to see how everything unfolds, man.
Absolutely. It's that time of year, the most wonderful time of year, Clayton.
It really is, man.
It's upon us.
I love it. All right. That's it, guys. We're going to go ahead and wrap it up right there. We went over a little bit, but if you guys would do us a big favor, smash that like button, hit subscribe, click the bell icon. Do us a huge favor wherever you get your podcasts. Go follow us. I've gotten multiple messages. I actually responded to a couple of them this morning. People are going, "Hey, man, what happened? Did you stop doing the pod? Or you just YouTube exclusive?" No, we got our own podcast network now. So just search for Packers Total Access wherever you get your podcasts. It's blowing up. There's like 20 different countries that we're being downloaded in, which is absolutely awesome. We got an interactive map I'm working on right now to kind of show people where all of our listeners are at. Again, the podcast is kind of the lifeblood of what we do, but if you guys watch live on YouTube, it's absolutely awesome as well. The best way to support what we do here at PTA is just join our Patreon community, patreon.com/PackerFan Total Access as well. Tim, appreciate your time, man. And we'll be back later, guys, as news breaks. I'm going to go comb through social media. If anything breaks loose like we did yesterday with the Xavier McKinney contract restructure, we'll just go ahead, go live, and bring that to you in real time. So everybody have a great day. My name's Clayton. That's Tim. This is PTA. Go Pack, go.
Here we go.
We're out.
Bye, guys.